Hey everyone, Cadaver Kelly here. So, I've been seeing a lot of stuff online with this really binary debate of music versus fashion. One side says goth is music and music only. The other side says that goth is a fashion style. Some do say that goth is music and fashion, but in my opinion, all three of those definitions are far too reductive. It's a fully formed subculture that there are so many moving parts to. Where do I really stand on this music versus fashion debate? Well, I don't. I think music is of the highest significance, obviously, but I'll try to explain my thoughts as best I can. Music is the foundation from which the goth subculture grew out of. It's the core that everything revolves around and the glue that holds everything together. And if you're interested in learning about goth music, I do have a playlist of videos with album reviews, countdowns, recommendations, that kind of thing. So I'll link that in the description. Goth, however, is a subculture, just like other alternative subcultures. There's a lot more to it than just its core of music. There's an entire community, there's events, there's social norms in the way we interact, there's common interests beyond our taste in music, there's certain styles of dance, common philosophical ideas, etiquette, and yes, there are fashion trends just like there are in punk or emo or other alternative scenes that operate in a similar way. A lot of us use our appearance to signify our participation in goth. And you don't have to have every single one of the things I just said to be a goth, but the goth subculture as an entity is a sum of these parts. Again, it's not like a checklist where you need every single thing on there to be a goth, but the goth subculture does have all of those things in it. I've only noticed this online. I don't really come across these kinds of discussions at events, but it is disappointing to see people online so quick to jump down someone's throat for calling themselves a goth based solely on their appearance. I mean, I get it. I don't think I would want someone like that to act as some sort of authority on goth or like speak on behalf of the goth subculture, but 9 times out of 10 they probably just don't know that much about it. So if someone likes dark and gloomy things but doesn't know much about goth music, I don't think that's my enemy. I think that is an untapped market, you know? Tell them about that new album that just came out. Tell them about that show next month. Tell them about your favorite recurring club night. You may be surprised. They may just like it. After all, it's dark enough to match their taste in clothes. We're currently in a renaissance period for goth, and I want to see that momentum keep going. Back to this idea of goth as a fashion style. I don't think the look itself is inherently goth the way music can be, but fashion and outward appearance are a vehicle for us to express our tastes and our interests in a more abstract way. There is validity in subcultural signifiers. When I go to a show or club night, it's rarely ever purely goth. A lot of them are mixed genre, so they'll have goth and wave and synth pop, or sometimes goth and another vertical of the alternative realm like industrial or punk. So when I go to these events, I'm able to take a pretty good guess at who in the room is a goth, who's a punk, who's a rivet head, based on the way they present themselves. That's not the case with everyone, of course. Sometimes it can be more ambiguous, or someone could have a mix of signifiers going on, or someone might not have a strong subcultural affiliation. But if someone's wearing winkle pickers and Susie Sue makeup, it's a pretty safe bet that they're into goth stuff. No guarantees, of course, but same with if someone's rocking a neon mohawk and a studded leopard print vest, I would probably think they're into punk or psychobilly or something like that. It's not exactly like music where I could analyze it for 5 seconds and say, yes, this is definitely goth. But it's, more abstract and loose, and these subcultural signifiers do come into play. I sometimes get comments or messages from people asking, am I a goth? Or I listen to these bands, or I dress in these clothes. Does that make me a goth? Since the goth subculture does revolve around music, I would say interest in goth music is a minimum entry point, but outside of that, there's no definitive formula for what makes a person goth. There's not a standard issue uniform to wear. There's not a specific way you have to dance. There's not exact interests or ideas that you have to have. you get the idea. If you ask 10 different goths what makes a goth, you'll get 10 different answers. The majority of the community will tell you that music is required, or, you know, a goth is someone who listens to goth music, but even then, some people will say it takes listening to a few goth bands. Some people will say your favorite band has to be goth. Some people will say you have to be drawn to the general sound and therefore probably like the majority of goth music. But no one person really speaks for the goth subculture as a whole. Ideas and values about goth come from general consensus. I can only give my perspective as someone who spent a lot of time with goth and is active in goth both online and offline. But it does take many perspectives to get a more complete picture. I will repeat, I am not the authority on goth. No one single person is. Subcultures, just like larger cultures, get passed down to the next generation by the group. So lately I've been trying to be a little more conscious of the message that I'm sending to new members to the goth scene, easing up my grip a little bit to avoid being intimidating, but not so much that I lose sight of what's important, if you will. And I'm not telling anyone else what to do, like that's just what I've been doing. I'm sure a lot of us can agree that some good goals for the overall community would be more support for our favorite bands and better turnout at events. So rather than playing defense for goth, I've been thinking of it more as almost like a sales job. But instead of selling products or services or trying to take people's money, I am selling the idea of goth music and events to newcomers to contribute to what will hopefully be a thriving future of the community. And that is not out of the goodness of my heart. It is kind of self-serving because, you know, I really am having a lot of fun in the goth scene, and I want that to be around for years to come so I can continue to do that. But I mean, I'm sure a lot of us think that way. A final message I kind of want to close with is that your personal tastes are your own. When it comes to music, fashion, events, the people you hang out with, or anything else, you should do what makes you happy. If that's stuff related to goth, that's great. If it's stuff that has nothing to do with goth, that's great too. It's also okay to be into maybe a little bit of goth stuff, but not all of it. We're all individuals with our own unique take on the world, so go out there and make the most of this life for yourself. This was kind of a different video for me, a little more rambly than I usually get. So if you like this kind of casual goth talk format, please let me know in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up because that helps it reach more people. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.